Pause for a second. Ask yourself why now? Why this video? Why this exact moment when something inside you already feels like it's on the edge of shift? You didn't plan to find this. You weren't searching for it. And yet, here you are, listening. Not casually, but deeply. Maybe it's coincidence, or maybe just maybe your frequency finally matched something calling back. Because that's how it works. Not with drama, not with thunder, but with resonance. And no, I'm not asking you to believe anything. You don't have to try. You don't need to convince yourself of some big cosmic truth. You just need to listen, not with your ears, but with that part of you that already knows this isn't random. If something stirs while you're here, follow it. Not to understand, just to be present with it. Because if you're still watching, then something real is already happening. And that's enough for now. It doesn't happen all at once. One day you're moving through life, ticking off your to-do list, chasing clarity. And then without warning you pause, not because everything's perfect, but because something inside you is tired of all the noise. Not the noise around you, the sirens, the deadlines, the endless notifications. No, it's the noise within. That quiet chaos that hums beneath your thoughts. What if I'm not enough? Am I behind? Is this really it? And maybe, just maybe, this message found you now because some part of you is finally ready to quiet that noise. The ancient ones, like Thoth, didn't speak of noise in terms of sound. They spoke of vibration, of frequencies that clutter the inner world like fog rolling in over still water. It's not that clarity disappears, it's that we've lost the ability to see what's already there. There's a line in the old teachings. Only those who silence the inner noise are able to pass through this first layer and see beyond. It's not poetry, it's instruction. You don't need to force your thoughts to stop. That's the mistake most of us make. You don't need to empty your mind. You need to watch it, gently, like clouds passing across a quiet sky. You sit, and without judgment you ask, what am I really thinking right now? The moment you ask that question, not to fix, not to suppress, just to see, you've already stepped back from the chaos. That step back is the beginning of clarity. It's like standing at the edge of a lake early in the morning. Mist rising, water rippling. At first, it seems opaque. But the longer you wait, the stiller you get, the more you begin to notice reflections. Light, depth. What felt hidden reveals itself, not because you searched harder, but because you stopped stirring the surface. This is the art of inner silence, not the silence of emptiness, but of presence, stillness that listens. Someone once wrote in the comments, I didn't realize how loud it was inside me until it went quiet. That's the paradox, isn't it? We grow so used to the internal chatter, we forget there's anything beyond it, until we do. And then we can't unknow it. And that's why this moment matters. Not because you finally figured something out, but because your system, your spirit, your energy, has shifted enough to notice the noise, to crave the quiet, and to trust that silence doesn't mean absence, it means arrival. The fog lifts, and for the first time in a long time, you can see clearly. Some doors don't open with keys. No matter how many self-help books you read, how hard you push, how perfectly you follow the steps, nothing seems to shift. You knock, you wait, and still silence. But what if the door wasn't locked? What if it wasn't about effort at all? What if it was about resonance? Thoth's teachings whisper this truth. When you vibrate at the right frequency, the door that once seemed closed resonates with that frequency and simply opens. It's not magic, it's physics, or more precisely, spiritual physics. Vibration isn't some abstract, woo-woo word tossed around in trendy circles. It's real, tangible. And if you're here listening, some part of you already feels that. You've had those moments when the right person called at the exact time you needed them, when you thought of something and it appeared, when everything just aligned. That wasn't luck. That was a match in frequency. So, let's get specific. Your vibration is a blend. Think of it like a living frequency code made up of 3 layers: feeling, meaning, presence. Feeling, not just emotions, but the undercurrent. Are you holding gratitude, fear, wonder, doubt? Meaning, the way you interpret what happens to you. A delay, is it rejection or divine timing? Presence, your ability to be here, not lost in the loops of yesterday or someday. When these 3 align, your vibration stabilizes. It strengthens. And suddenly, what once felt out of reach begins to approach you. So how do you raise it? Forget pretending to be positive. Real elevation starts with authenticity. Here are 3 real-world tools, not just spiritual fluff, but ways to rewire your inner frequency. 1. Emotional alchemy. Name what you're feeling. Don't bypass it. Let your anger be seen. Let your doubts speak. Then choose, consciously, to hold space for something more like curiosity or grace, not to fix yourself, but to stop abandoning yourself. 2. Frequency fasting. For 1 hour a day, unplug from what drains you: social scrolls, toxic loops, even internal criticism. It's not about escape. It's about creating silence long enough for a higher signal to come through. 3. Sound resonance. You've probably heard of mantras, but ancient sounds like those from the emerald tablets aren't just chants. They're coded vibrations. Words like UNTANAS or QERTAS weren't made to be understood, they were made to be felt, heard, absorbed. When you speak or listen to these sounds with intention, your body responds not mentally, but energetically. It's like tuning a stringed instrument not by thought, but by vibration. You don't need to believe in them for them to work. You just need to feel, and maybe that's the whole secret. You don't open the door, you become the frequency that makes it open by itself. So stop forcing. Start resonating. The doors are already there. They're just waiting for you to hum the right note. We're taught to chase signs. A feather on the sidewalk, a song at the right moment, a number sequence that flashes on a clock. And while these moments feel magical, there's a deeper truth most of us overlook. You are not meant to follow signs. You are meant to become one. When your vibration is coherent, when your energy isn't scrambled by fear or doubt, you don't need the universe to send you hints. The universe responds to you. You stop searching, and instead, the world around you shifts to meet your frequency. People begin to say, "I don't know why, but I just felt drawn to talk to you." Opportunities come not because you hunted them, but because you aligned with them. You wake up not wondering if you're on the path, you are the path. In the teachings of Thoth, the clearest sign of spiritual maturity is when you stop needing proof. Because something in you has grown so steady, so rooted, that you begin to live as a message without shouting, without convincing. There was a comment, maybe you've read it before, or maybe it could have been yours. It simply said, "I heard the calling." No explanation, no question, just the quiet clarity of someone who knows they've crossed a threshold. That's the moment we're speaking to right now. That flicker inside you that doesn't need validation anymore. You might still doubt, you might still fall into old patterns, but something foundational has shifted. You no longer wait to be chosen, because you've already chosen yourself. That's what happens when your vibration settles into coherence. You become magnetic, not by doing more, but by being more fully you. And then synchronistic events, guidance, insight, they're not breadcrumbs on a trail anymore. They're mirrors, reflections of who you've already become. You don't need a cosmic billboard to tell you you're ready. The fact that you're here, listening, present, that is the sign. So the next time you catch yourself waiting for a confirmation, pause, feel into your body. Ask not, what does this mean? But who am I becoming right now? Because the world doesn't need another seeker looking for signs. It needs you standing still, radiating so clearly that the signs start pointing to you. There's a moment often after a spiritual high when you feel lost again. You meditate, you journal, you follow the steps. But the sense of flow, of alignment fades. And that's when the questions creep in. What am I doing wrong? Why can't I stay there? But what if alignment was never something to reach? What if it was simply a remembering? You see, the mind loves goals. It wants to conquer. Even when it comes to inner peace, it turns it into a checklist. Wake at 5 a.m., meditate 30 minutes, say the affirmations, journal the breakthrough. But your soul doesn't operate like that. It doesn't want control, it wants coherence. And coherence isn't a performance, it's a return. A return to something that's already whole inside you. Something you didn't lose, you just forgot under the layers of striving. Thoth reminds us that life isn't meant to be a fight. When the inner world finds harmony, the outer world responds not out of obedience, but resonance. That doesn't mean you sit around and wait. It means the quality of your action changes. You move without struggle. You act without anxiety. You respond instead of react. There's a practice for this. It's not exotic. It doesn't require incense or silence or sacred geometry. It's called stillness in motion. It means folding laundry with attention, answering an email with breath, walking into a room and pausing before you speak, not to perform mindfulness, but to remember, I'm here. This moment matters. I can bring myself fully into it. In the words of integration guides like Very Well Mind and Brent Spirit, this is where true awakening lives, not in visions or downloads, but in how you pour a glass of water, how you hold eye contact, how you breathe when no one's watching. You don't need to escape daily life to stay awake. You need to bring your awakening into it. The mind will tempt you back into striving. It will whisper, you're falling behind, you're doing it wrong. But alignment doesn't shout, it waits, softly, for you to return, not with force, but with presence. And when you do, when you stop trying to be aligned and instead listen for the alignment already within you, something shifts. You become the one who walks with stillness, who speaks without tension, who chooses not from fear, but from frequency. And that's not something you achieve, that's something you remember. There's a strange kind of magic that shows up in the moments we least expect. You're thinking of someone you haven't spoken to in years, and suddenly, they message you. A word keeps appearing in books, in conversations, in dreams. You get lost in thought, and then a song plays with lyrics that echo exactly what you were wrestling with. We call them coincidences. Some call them divine winks. Others dismiss them entirely. But those who have begun to truly listen know something deeper. Synchronicity is not luck, it's language. The field we live in, this web of vibration and energy, isn't silent. It speaks. Not in sentences, but in patterns, in nudges, in perfectly timed events, in signs that don't scream, but whisper just loud enough if you're present enough to catch them. And no, this isn't about superstition. It's not about seeing messages in every cloud or turning license plates into prophecies. It's about alignment. When your frequency stabilizes, the world around you mirrors it like an echo, responding to the tone you've been humming without realizing. In Thoth's teachings, synchronicities aren't there to wow you. They're there to remind you you're not lost, you're connected. You're in conversation with the very field you once thought was random. Every person who shows up at the right moment, they're not accidents. Every repeated symbol, phrase, or moment of déjà vu, not meaningless. They're guideposts, not answers, but invitations to notice where your energy is leading you. And if you've ever felt a little crazy for seeing the patterns, know you're not alone. One Reddit user wrote about how they started tracking synchronicities in a journal. At first, they were skeptical. But over time, the patterns were undeniable, and more importantly, they led to real connection. A job aligned with their values. A spiritual community that felt like home. A sense of being met by life. They ended their post with, "It wasn't just the universe speaking. It was me finally listening." That's what this is about. You don't need to chase signs. You need to recognize them. You don't need to decode every little thing. You just need to stay open. Because synchronicity isn't there to impress you. It's there to reveal you your frequency, your readiness, your path. When you begin to treat synchronicity not as luck, but as a language, you start asking better questions. What am I being shown right now? What energy am I walking with? What if this moment is part of something bigger and quieter and wise? And when those questions settle and you stop chasing the path, because suddenly it's walking right beside you. Have you ever found yourself back in the same situation again? A different face, a new setting, but the same argument, the same emptiness, the same crash after the same high. It's easy to call it bad luck, or karma, or blame something outside of you. But what if the loop wasn't a punishment? What if it was feedback? In Thoth's wisdom, patterns don't repeat because you're cursed. They repeat because your energy hasn't changed. The outer world isn't testing you, it's mirroring you. Over and over again, until you see what's really being reflected. And here's the truth most of us miss. You can't think your way out of the loop. You can't hustle or strategize your way free. You have to feel your way through it. Every pattern, whether it's abandonment, rejection, unworthiness, fear, has a root. And that root isn't a person or a mistake. It's an emotion, a memory, a belief you carry deep inside, quietly vibrating, calling back the same lesson dressed in different clothes. The practice that breaks the loop isn't control. It's called shadow emotion integration. It means turning toward the emotion you've spent a lifetime running from. Not to fix it, not to fight it, but to witness it. When you stop resisting anger and instead feel its heat fully, it loses its grip. When you sit with shame, not judge it, you dissolve its illusion. When you greet fear like an old friend, not a threat, it softens. This is not about spiritual bypassing. This is not just be positive. It's about making space inside you wide enough to hold every version of you and still choose to move differently. Because here's the paradox. You can't open a new door with the same old frequency. You can't attract freedom while vibrating from fear. You can't create a future if you're still echoing the past. So what do? You pause when the old pattern rises. You breathe. You ask, what is this showing me about myself? And then you respond not from the wound, but from the awareness. This is how loops are broken, not with force, but with presence. You don't need to become someone else. You just need to stop abandoning the one who's already trying to wake up inside you. That's when something shifts. The same situation comes again, but you respond differently. The same temptation rises, but you stay rooted. And just like that, the loop loses power. Not because it disappeared, but because you no longer vibrate in its direction. And from that moment on, life begins to echo a new rhythm. Not because you fixed yourself, but because you finally remembered you were never broken. You heard it, not with your ears, but somewhere quieter. Somewhere inside you beneath the noise, beyond the scroll in the space between words. And now you're here, not by accident, not because the algorithm got lucky, but because something in your field called this moment to you. So what now? That's the question echoing in hundreds of comments. I heard the calling. I'm ready. And then silence, as if the next step should appear in flashing lights, but it won't. Because the next step doesn't come to you. It comes through you. This isn't the part where I give you a formula, but I can offer a rhythm, a pattern of movement that's guided many before you. 4 steps. Gentle, simple, but real. 1 stillness. Not just the absence of noise, but the act of listening. Each day, even just 5 minutes, no agenda, no affirmation, just presence. Let your breath become the only thing you need to notice. This is how you learn to recognize your own frequency again. 2, practice. Choose one act that aligns you. Maybe it's sound. The tones whispered in the emerald tablets UNTANAS, QERTAS can become anchors. Maybe it's writing, walking, speaking out loud in the dark. Let it be yours, not a trend, not borrowed. Real. 3, repetition. The ego seeks novelty. The soul finds freedom in rhythm. Whatever practice you choose, come back to it. Not perfectly, not religiously, but consistently. Repetition doesn't chain you. It stabilizes you. 4, share, not to be seen, but to seal the vibration. When you speak from your truth, when you type a comment, when you whisper to a friend, I heard the calling, you declare it real. You let the vibration ripple beyond your own skin. And yes, there are deeper tools if you want them. A sacred calendar, built not on hours but on intention. A community, your tribe, found not in numbers, but in resonance. A mentor, not with all the answers, but with better questions. None of it is sold here, only offered in direction. Because this isn't about consuming more knowledge. It's about embodying what you already feel is true. So if you've been wondering, what now? Here's the answer. Let the energy of your readiness become a shape, a sound, a practice, a moment you return to. And if you want to begin now, simply write below. Here, S where I'm at. Let your vibration meet someone else's, not to impress, but to witness, not to explain, but to echo. You heard the calling, now let it move through you. You don't need to chase alignment. You don't need to fix yourself or figure it all out. The frequency you seek, it isn't out there. It's not in a book or a mentor or a crystal. It's already humming quietly beneath your thoughts, beneath your history, beneath every version of you that ever questioned your worth. You are not missing anything. The only thing required now is remembrance, not performance, not perfection. Just the soft, patient act of not interrupting what is already whole. You don't have to hold the vibration. You simply need to stop adding noise to it. And if you're still here, still listening, it means something. It means the door already opened. It means you stepped through it. There's nothing more you need to prove, just one breath, one presence, and the knowing you're already in the frequency. Welcome back.